is everybody doing? How you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful time. Get your libations today. Get your libations out. Get whatever you need. Chamomiles, Coke, water, something stronger. Whatever you need to get yourself through this episode. Let's get it together and do just that. Can we? Shall we? Now listen. We have to talk about something. I saw it going around, but we're not going to get straight into it. But we're going to talk about misconceptions and all of that stuff. We're about to get into it. But as usual, before we do that, do not forget that on the 25th, Making Hispanics, we will be having that book club book. It's not a long book. Even if you haven't even gotten started reading, you should be able to read it by the time we have the book club conversation. So make sure you do that. Make sure you do that. Also, I just looked at the calendar, and it appears as though the 29th falls on a Monday. And so there will be no show on the 29th because that is my birthday. I don't do birthday shows. I do Christmas shows, Thanksgiving shows, New Year's Eve shows, every other holiday but my birthday. So, fam, no show on that day, but we will have, remember, we got the book club the Thursday, so you'll have 3 shows the week before. Okay, so you shouldn't feel cheated in any kind of way. All right, I appreciate you, absolutely appreciate y'all for being here. Whatever, what are y'all doing in the chat? I appreciate it. Anyway, who is that? Not your Negro and Dwight. Thank you. Now, let me just say something, fam. Before we get into it, please hit that like button. If you don't do anything else, just hit the like button. Of course, you can go to donatebrown.com or $breakingbrown for Cash App or patreon.com/ycarnell, but that is not a requirement, right? You can help this channel by hitting that like button. Cost you no money to hit the like button. Nothing. To just hit that like button like I was here. Cost you no money to make sure, even if you are already getting notifications, please go and make sure that you are getting notifications still. And your notifications are set up right for every time we have a show here. Just go, and if you could go and just make sure that that's set up, I would appreciate that more than you know. Also, if you are not subscribed to this channel, please hit the subscribe button. That's just how this channel grows. And, you know, people don't like politics as much, so we stay stuck a little bit. So I want you to do that. I would appreciate that. Now that I think we've gotten all of our housekeeping in order, let's talk about this whole black farmers thing, because I wasn't going to say much about it, because I always appreciate when our people, our farmers, get their money. We had the class action suit, you all remember that, and now they said they were getting COVID money, but it ain't what it looked like they saying it is. Ain't even really money like that, right? They're telling us, oh, this is reparations. So be careful, family. You know what I always say? Be very careful about language. Language is important. The kind of language they use. Because they're talking about black farmers in terms of reparations. And they're going to do that. Eventually, they're going to say, we gave you local. We gave y'all some local stuff. And we gave you the farmers reparations. So y'all have already gotten your reparations. And look at this. Let me show you how else it confuses the conversation, because we're going to get into it today. National Black Farmers Association calls for Lindsey Graham, to apologize over racist comments. But I just want to show you this for a second. Let me show you what he said, and we're going to get to why he said it and why this is a problem. Graham said during the appearance that he was really bothered by the provisions inclusion in the coronavirus bill, blasting it as part of a Democratic wish list. Well, that's what everybody does. For those who don't know, anytime there's a bill, everybody tries to throw everything they want in there. So he's just being Lindsey Graham. Let me give you an example of something that really bothers me. In this bill, if you're a farmer, your loan will be forgiven up to 120% of your loan. If you're socially disadvantaged, if you're African American, some other minority. But if you're a white person, if you're a white woman, no forgiveness. That's reparations. What does that have to do with COVID? Now let's talk about why this is a problem. What does that have to do with COVID? Well, not a lot, except for a lot of farmers suffered during this period. But I want you to understand that the same argument Lindsey Graham just made is the same argument that can be made against reparations if you don't do it lineage-based. Understand, first of all, Forgiving a loan up to 120% or whatever that nonsense was is not any kind of reparations. It's not a redistribution of wealth. It's a loan forgiveness. The second part about it is this, though. And here's where we get into the nitty and the gritty of the situation. Lindsey Graham has a point. If you can be Asian, if you can be Hispanic, if you can be, and a lot of Hispanics are white and have assimilated and lead white lives. If you can be a minority, they might even, I don't understand, women probably going to say we need to be included too. If you can do all of that, then why can't you be a white male farmer and get some? What is socially disadvantaged anyway? What does that mean? Well, let's just look at what disadvantage means. This is why you have to make stuff specifically for ADOS. It can't be just disadvantage. That's not good enough. It says disadvantage of a person or area in unfavorable circumstances, especially with regard to financial or social opportunities. Now, here is the thing. Anybody can find themselves in that situation. Anybody can find themselves, any group can find themselves in a disadvantaged situation. If you just got here, or if you had a streak of bad luck or whatever, you can say, you can make that case. That case will also be the case made against reparations, because you can say what Lindsey Graham said. Listen, Asians as a group, and I don't even think any of this makes sense to call Asians Asians, because you have a whole bunch of different categories. We're going to talk about that during the book club. But it doesn't make sense to do that. But if you do it, if you group people up as Asians, they do better in wealth categories, or at least even than white people. You can't be disadvantaged and doing better than white people. Hispanics, a lot of which are white. Right? You look at people who have Spanish last names, but they white people doing well. They can also climb into that. The one point that Lindsey Graham makes, and he don't never make a good point, and this wasn't even a good point because it's not reparations, Lindsey, but something that he makes that is a good point is that this don't make no sense. Asians and Hispanics should get the same thing as white people. The only group that can prove a systemic mechanized oppression and plunder and robbery and theft over 400 years is who? The American Negro. That's ADOS and that's us. Nothing else makes sense. So let's get into one other thing, or a few other things as we go. Let's get into this relief bill, because they keep making it about black farmers. And we have to get into it. What they try to say. Relief bill is the most significant legislation for black farmers since the Civil Rights Act. But is it really for? I'm not saying black farmers don't benefit. I'm not saying ADOS farmers don't benefit. Who would not like to have that kind of relief? But why are you making this just about us when it's really about socially disadvantaged group? You see that little sleight of hand? It's like you ever been somewhere and somebody played a little shell game? What's under the shell? Pick what's under the shell. Pick what's on. I'm going to move it around. Okay, pick one. It's a shell game. So let's watch this. Of the $10.4 billion in the American Rescue Plan that will support agriculture, approximately half would go to disadvantaged farmers, according to estimates from the Farm Bureau, an industry organization. About a quarter of disadvantaged farmers are black. A quarter. What's a quarter, family? Ain't that 25%? The money would provide debt relief. That's not a redistribution of wealth. That erases debt. That's not a redistribution of any kind of wealth. As well as grants, training, still not education. Grants are even not in the sense of specific. We are a quarter of a group, and they're making this like it's all our group that's getting help. How come we don't see the rest of the people who are getting stuff? They said this for the Native Americans and the Mexicans and everybody. Okay, let's get to it. Let's get to the next quick quote. While it's a fraction of the $1.9 trillion bill that passed in the Senate on Saturday, advocates say it still represents a step toward righting the wrong after a century of mistreatment of black farmers by the government and others. But it's not for black farmers. If you want to right a wrong, you do something specifically for that group, not just something that includes that group. You do something specifically for the group. That's not it. You don't give 5 billion. And I'm gonna show you how small that is when I go to big agriculture. I'm gonna show you what they get. I'm gonna show you what big ag gets. That's white farmers. Let's talk about what white farmers get. You ain't gonna be able to compete with them with this little piece of money they get. This little debt relief they giving you. Some say it is a form of reparations for African Americans who have suffered a long history of racial oppression. This don't make no sense. Black farmers in America have lost more than 12 million acres of farmland over the past century, mostly since the 1950s, a result of what agricultural experts and advocates for black farmers say is a combination of systemic racism, biased government policy, and social business practices that have denied African Americans equitable access to the markets. And this article is a lie too, because it's not just this one thing. We were denied loans. We were ran off of our property. The Ku Klux Klan could just come get it and say, this is mine now. We never got the 40 acres. Understand that what they did, the thing that a lot of ADOS were best at was farming, because we had to farm the land. That was slavery. You got to be out there. You got to remember how good. Remember, the half has never been told how they said how good we were at picking that cotton, because we had to be. We were more efficient at it because we had to be. Now, so what happens is the thing that we are good at, and they know we good at it because they made us good at it with the whip. And we did something. We pulled from, like the woman who called in who said during the book club, we pulled from like this creative part of ourselves to figure out how to do something that they never could. So what they said is, we're going to take you off the table. You're too good at this. See, because if we had been left on the table and we had been still left to compete, forget about giving us anything. Just don't rob us. Don't plunder us. Don't take our farms. Don't set them on fire. All that stuff. Police protect us. If all that stuff had happened, who do you think would be supplying the food? Like, who do you think, when you talk about who supplies potatoes to these big companies, who supplies the blueberries, who supplies cotton, who do you think would be doing that? Would be us. You can't take this little money that's debt relief that goes to everybody except white people and say this is reparations for ADOS. And even that, it still wouldn't be reparations, because this thing said, this article just said access to markets. No, what's this about access? It was about having everything that you had stolen from you and not having the same access to loans. Remember what Shirley Sherrod said, right? Your government, understand something. You cannot, I don't care how hard you try. If you try, some will make it, because that's just life. We have superheroes. How do you make it when your government is not only weaponized against you, it's weaponized against you, and the people who are robbing you, it says, yeah, we don't care. You have no rights that white people are bound to recognize. Generation after generation after generation. You don't relieve that with some kind of debt that includes everyone. Now let's go on. For generations, socially disadvantaged farmers, don't say black farmers, socially, understand they're trying to switch it up. They want us to start talking about socially disadvantaged farmers as opposed to ADOS farmers, as opposed to ADOS landowners. For generations, socially disadvantaged farmers have struggled to fully succeed due to systemic discrimination and the cycle of debt. And Tom Vilsack was a part of that. On top of the economic pain caused by the pandemic, farmers from socially disadvantaged communities are dealing with the disproportionate share of COVID-19 infection rates, hospitalizations, and death. Understand that this man keeps saying socially disadvantaged. These people don't even want to say our name anymore. Like, I want you to understand that. I want you to really understand that. They don't even want to say who we are. That's how they begin to erase you, family. When they stop saying your name, when they stop saying ADOS, when they stop saying even African American, when they stop saying that, that's what it means. Right? Just understand that. Just understand that that's what it means. It's debt relief. Let me show you. Let me bring this up for 1 second. Let me bring this other part up. Even the grant. Now look at this. Emergency rural development grants for rural health care. The Secretary of Agriculture in this section referred to the shall use funds made available by this section to establish an emergency pilot program for rural development not later than 150 days after the enactment of this act and provide eligible applicants as defined by blah, 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 to be awarded by the Secretary, blah, 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 based on rural, you know what rural means a lot, don't you? Development needs related to COVID-19 pandemic. Please understand this. It's debt release and it's not for ADOS. Yeah, some ADOS get it. Like, understand. If somebody puts a cake in the middle of a room and I get a piece of that cake, is that Yvette's cake? No, Yvette just got a piece of a cake. And I didn't even, in this case, they're not even getting cake. It's debt relief, so they're not getting money like that. But listen, even if it was money, if I get a piece of money, that's not my money. That's not my cake. You're just not excluding me this time. This is just, family, this is just what's supposed to happen. When there's relief, we're supposed to be included. We've just been excluded. That don't mean nothing. That's this the fact that people are writing this and nobody is screaming to high heaven is a problem. This is a real problem. Especially when you look at data like this. Look at this. Of the 3.4 million farmers in the United States today, only 45,000 are black. And that's because of the government and domestic terrorists who robbed us. According to the USDA, down from 1 million a century ago. Please read that again for me, family. Of the 3.4 million farmers in the United States today, only 45,000 are black, according to the USDA, down from 1 million a century ago. Black farmland ownership peaked in 1910 at 16 to 19 million acres, about 14% of total agricultural land, according to the Census of Agriculture. A century later, 90% of that land has been lost. That land has not been lost. That land has been stolen. Because even when we lost our farms, it was because we didn't have access to capital that white farmers had access to. That in and of itself is a theft. White farmers now account for 98% of the acres, according to the USDA. And they have been and still get all the money. Just because you got a little piece of money don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing. Look at this. I forget who McCurdy is, but it's reparations. But it's more than that. It is historic, McCurdy said. I got to read up on the article to see who that was. McCurdy, the dodo bird. When black farmers did acquire land through our own grit and determination, USDA did what they could to erode those gains. Yes, they did. Let me just come out of this for 1 second. Everybody has to understand, and I haven't gotten into everything because I don't like to get into everything on the show because people take it and run with it and say this is my idea. And it's just dodo birds. Dodo birds are everywhere. So the thing that has to happen, and everybody has to understand this, it's really not even, when you talk about farmers and you talk about land, yes, the money is one thing. Because honestly, there's really, we are being generous in allowing America to pay reparations. Understand that. That is a generous thing to do, to say you can pay us back. Because really what America has wrought, you cannot pay with dollars. You can't do that. But what you would have to do, if you were going to give reparations to farmers, you would have to give black farmers that land back. And you will have to give land to the descendants of people who were farming when they lost their land. Because you don't just need the money, you need the land. Well, what do you mean, Yvette? The money buys land. No. You got a bunch of people now who own all that land and ain't trying to give it up. You have to have the thing that creates wealth. There are drivers of wealth. The banking industry is one of them in terms of loans, and that's the biggest one. But what do? Let's say you come from farming or whatever. You get $5 million or whatever, and you don't have nowhere to put it. Nobody want to sell you the land. All money ain't the same. So white people say, I don't want to sell you. I know you got your little reparations. I know you want to farm. I know your people were farmers. I don't want to sell you nothing. Well, what good is your money? You go try to buy a network. Billionaires tell you, no, we're not selling you nothing. Because $5 million ain't nothing to a billionaire. Nothing at all. You go try to say, well, I got a whole different idea. I'm going to buy wholesale eggs real cheap, and I'm going to sell them. And the company says, no, we don't contract with you. We're not selling you no eggs and nothing like that. You're going to have to go figure something else out. Us got to be very careful. Because it's very easy for America to do reparations and lock us in to consumers. You have to, if you're going to do reparations for farmers, you got to get that land back. And I don't care who you take it from, or I don't care who you force to sell. You have to get that land back. You have to, because that's what puts us, these are the kinds of things that put us in the ownership class. The ownership class is not just about having money. If you don't have anywhere to put that money, to grow that money, to build that money, then it's no good to you. If you don't have, and guess what happens? I don't care how strong you think you are. I don't care how disciplined you think you are. If you go a few years trying to make money, trying to build, trying to do stuff, and you can't find a foothold in, you know what you're eventually going to do with your money? You're going to start buying stuff. Maybe a luxury home, maybe a Ferrari. You might even buy some dumb diamonds. Stuff that depreciates because you haven't found a vehicle to grow that money, because people have decided we're going to force ADOS to give white America back their reparations. So if you don't write reparations legislation right, you end up giving it right back to white people. And nobody, I didn't mean to get into this, fam, but nobody that I know, that I have ever seen, has written any kind of reparations legislation, book, article that makes sense in terms of the gravity of what we need in terms of legislation. Nobody. Not one person. If you make it just about money, and you don't make it about protection, and you don't make it about what the government must do to put us back to where we were, you fail. And white people will get all their money back. And people of color too. Quote unquote. They will get all the money back. Because they can make money very expensive. Understand that the people who own all the levers of power can make having money very expensive. So let me go on. I don't want to get caught up in that. We'll get to that later, but I want to show you. This is the Farm Bureau. See, they're lobbyists. One of the things you got to do when you really want to know what's in something, go see what the lobbyists got to say. They say the same thing. Assistance for socially disadvantaged farmers. Now, who does this include? Does not appropriate farm. It's the $4 billion will be provided with around the same thing. Black, Hispanic, Native American, and Asian American farmers or ranchers. Outstanding debt. Now, wait a minute. We're going to get to something in a second, because they say Native Americans. Well, you say, Yvette, are you upset that Native Americans are included in this bill? No, I'm wondering Well, yes, if you're going to talk about black farmers. Because we need something specifically for us, not for everybody else. But Native Americans have their own stuff. But we're going to get to that in a minute. I don't know why everybody's in our stuff. Right? I'm just trying to figure this out. Why is everybody in our stuff? So we can't have anything of our own. But that little bit of money, we get a part of it. A debt. It's not even money. It's not redistribution. A little slim part of our debt relief, blah, 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 blah. And they're trying to call that reparations. But let me show you something. Let me show you something real quick. Democrats just approved the biggest investment in Native programs in U.S. history. The bill, which is expected to pass the House and be signed by the President Joe Biden as soon as next week. This is a few days ago, like 7 days ago, I think. Includes more than $31.2 billion for tribal governments and Native communities. The money will go directly, family, please hear me, to helping American Indians, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiians focus on economic recovery. Tell me which number is bigger. And tell me why they get to get specificity and we don't. They get specific money to meet whatever their needs are. They get money for them. We don't get money for us, but they get money for them. And they get to come dip into what we get to dip into. Most of the money in the relief package targeted Native communities, or roughly $20 billion of the $31.2 billion, will go straight to tribal communities. Straight to tribal communities. Hot diggy dog, diggy dig dog. Right? I'm going to just leave that there for a second. Because it doesn't even matter. People are like, well, what's that in the, what that? Listen, this is what they're showing is that regardless, is that the Democrats are okay. I don't even care what came out of conference. Democrats are okay with setting aside stuff for other communities. Why are they not okay with setting aside stuff for us? Listen, we're a larger community, even in terms of what they wrote into that bill. We're a larger community. And then they never fight for us. And we're the ones who we undergird them every election. And somehow, I don't understand how, they always end up being the one that you're okay with targeting this. This goes only to Native Americans, right? And some Hawaiians or something, which is hardly nobody. You fine with that. You fine with saying that, but nobody says this goes only to ADOS. Not only that, you want to call that mess reparations. Some kind of debt relief junk. You want to call that reparations. Oh, the Negroes are getting reparations because you think we stupid. I understand that everybody is operating under the belief that we're stupid. Just understand that. Like, understand that this is racism. I don't care. I don't care whether it involves Native Americans or whoever else. This is racist. And this is something that's designed to make it look like we got something we didn't get, while you hand a whole bunch of money over to everybody else, including a whole bunch of white farmers who have got money here and have been getting money throughout. We're gonna talk about that too, right? You just gotta, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. And everybody kind of bought it. Like, yeah. And one of the reasons we buy it, because, the Congressional Black Caucus is stupid. While we out here not getting what everybody else is getting, they getting multi-billions, we getting a little sliver of a birthday cake. They out here re-envisioning liberation for the global black diaspora. I'd rather not have anybody represent me than have these Negroes represent. You can vote a lot of them out. Just get rid of them. I think they're worse than not having any kind of representation. Get rid of them. These people are awful. This is awful. See, when we try to do something for ourselves, it's like that article I showed you all a while ago. Remember how the lawsuits came? A COVID-19. This is in a state though, this is not federal. A COVID-19 fund was created for black residents, then came the lawsuits. Everybody else can have something specifically for them, but whenever we try to do something, lawsuits come. People want to file all kind of litigation. This country is the country that has always been, and don't let people lie to you and make you believe that stuff has happened that has not happened. You can do a lot of stuff, but don't do that. And let me tell you something. Native Americans finna get banked because they just approved the first Native American cabinet head of the interior that oversees Native Americans. They set it up for them to get banked. How much bank we got? Do we have a Department of ADOS or Department of Native Black Americans? What we got? Up under the interior? No? If we don't even have the department, why are we celebrating? So let me just, I'm gonna pull out a quote from here because it's important for us to understand. And I just want to pull up some images of farmers but it's important for us to understand. Let me see if I can find that part. What this meant. So it says economics is, of course, a major consideration. According to the researchers Francis and Hamilton, the dispossession of black agricultural land, I hope that's not Derek Hamilton because he just done sold all the way out. We have so many sellouts. The dispossession of black agricultural land resulted in the loss of hundreds of billions of dollars of black wealth. We must emphasize this estimate is conservative, depending on the multiplier effects, rates of return, and other factors. It could reach into the trillions. The large wealth gap between white and black families today exists in part because of this historic loss. But money does not define every dimension of land theft. Were it not for dispossession, Mississippi today might well be a majority black state with radically different political destiny. Imagine the difference in our national politics if the center of gravity of black electoral strength had remained in the South after the Voting Rights Act was passed. Politics aside, how can reparations truly address the lives ruined, the family histories lost, the connection to the land severed? In America, land has always had significance that exceeds economic value. For people who were once chattel themselves, real property has carried an almost mystical import. There's a reason the fabled promise that spread across freedmen after the Civil War was not a check, a job, or a refundable tax credit, but 40 acres of farmland to call home. The history of the Delta suggests that any conversation about reparations might need to be more qualitative and intangible than it is, and it must consider the land. It must consider the land, because if you have the land, you can do whatever. You can make that land do a lot of things. You know that land is like gold or something. In the sense that you can grow stuff depending on what kind of soil you have and stuff like that. You can grow different things and do different things and live off of what you have. People are living off of what we had, of what we owned, of what we were. That is a problem. It's a problem that we inherit as ADOS. And to call this thing reparations is an assault. And let me just show you something. Let me just go back to something. Let me just go back to something really quick. I want to show, because I'm going back to, like, this is a chart that actually shows who got what, how, and where, right? Let me bring that up a little bit to you. Look at those grants, right? There is nothing specifically here. Look at that little bitty debt forgive. Look at the percentages now. Food purchases, distribution, efforts, pandemic response. Look at that, it's 35%. Look at the debt forgiveness right here, 39% for the disadvantaged farmers. Now I'm gonna bring this up a little bit bigger. Hold on. Outreach support socially 7.7, grants 4.8. So 4.8%. If that's all the grants you're giving, that's no money. That's nothing. Mostly what you're giving is debt relief. I don't know what everybody think is happening here. I really don't understand. I honestly don't. Now look at this chart really quickly. Direct government payments to farmers from 1930, was that 33? Hold on a second. To 2020. Understand that we didn't get any of this. You see this? All the way up and through. If you think I'm lying, I'm not. Let's go a little bit further. Let's go 1995 to 2016. 353 billion. See, what happens is that America has already created monopolies with what they stole from us. They've created monopolies. Right? They've already created monopolies based on what they stole. They're not giving you, as a farmer, as an ADOS farmer, the ability to compete with what they give. What they give every year to white farmers. They give millions every year, back to back to back to back to back. They're gonna give you some debt relief when they giving out real money to these the top 10 largest U.S. farm subsidy recipients 2008 2017. They giving millions on millions on millions, which is billions on billions on billions, year after year after year. They don't call that reparations. Right? Right? And there, listen, we're a minority group. So we get less of everything. 14% of the population. These white people been eating it up. Getting money. You don't get enough. This is what they call big ag. This is big agriculture. They getting all the money. Trust. Go look at big ag subsidies sometime and see what you see. Right? I don't, it just kind of blows my mind. How people don't understand the importance of specificity. How do you not understand the importance of specificity? How can anybody in their right mind get somewhere and say, this right here, this is reparations. We ain't never had no loan forgiveness. Oh my God. Think about the people who were farming, who are no longer farming, right? Or whose descendants may no longer be farming because they did not have the capital that was advanced to others, that was not given to us. Think about the people who had their land taken or they were manipulated. I'm talking about strip. Just, you got to leave. You want your life? You got to leave. That's what white terrorism did. Not only that, a lot of us couldn't read and write. They wrote stuff up and said, oh, you signed this. You signed your land away. I put an article on a podcast about that in the news a long time ago. And you signed your land away. You gave it to us. Well, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. Here's your X right here. This belongs to us now. You got to give back the land. You got to give back the land. Right? And it has to be specificity. We need our own specific category that is a subsidy, not a debt relief. You give white people subsidies every year. And you're going to talk to us about a debt relief. And everybody's going to go around and talk about that as if that is reparations. And ain't nobody going to say this is a lie. Ain't nobody going to say this is stupid. Ain't nobody going to say this don't make sense. Right? Gonna make it look like oh my God, we got reparations. Can you believe it? We finally got our reparations. At least the farmers did. That's something. What are you talking about? People just say anything. This don't make up for nothing. This doesn't make up for anything that was stolen. How does that make up for that? You took that. Now understand, this is not just land that we needed. This is land that we could have leveraged, because you can use the land, the farmland that you inherit, to get loans to as collateral for all kinds of other stuff. This is being robbed of our inheritance. This is land theft. It's land theft. That's all it is. Ain't no way to put it. And understand that, like, the hierarchy is different. The article kind of touched on in terms of what Mississippi would be had ADOS been able to keep that land and grow that land and build industry on top of that land. You wouldn't have the Mississippi of today. Not them Ku Klux. No, we too good at what we do. Why do you think they keep us down? Because if you let us up, we're a problem in terms of competition. So now we got to talk about the Voting Rights Act and talk to politicians. Can you help me? And they all say no, because we didn't get to have our wealth. Our wealth was stolen. We are a plundered group. And don't let nobody convince you that we're not plundered because of some kind of stupid little thing they came up with that includes everybody. Land is wealth. You can do anything with it. You can build on it. You can plant it. You can with crops in it. You can do whatever you want to do on that thing. And they stole it. And they ain't never gave it back. Never gave it back. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine the thing that we good at. They just took it and stole and walked off. So, fam, I think I'm gonna leave it there. But, I just think we have to be, one of the things that you have to do, and we absolutely have to do, you have to read the fine print in this stuff. Because what they want to do, this is the whole end game. The whole end game is to make us believe that we already got reparations. So, hey, their belief is, these Negroes stupid. We're going to throw some stuff out there and say it's reparations. We're going to get some BS writers to write and say it's reparations. Negroes don't read. These Negroes don't read. They stupid. That's what they think of us. So they're not going to read the fine print and see that it ain't. We even going to get some farmers on TV. They're so desperate. We so desperate to call anything reparations and desperate to be seen. They're going to say it's reparations. We're going to get them on TV. And we're going to get everybody into believing we already gave reparations when we didn't. So we're going to do a few years of this stuff where we do a bunch of little bitty stuff that don't mean nothing. And ain't nothing on the scale of what we've given white farmers who are already white, which really should be nothing, because there's no really such thing as whiteness except for normalization. We're going to get them all the money, give Negroes a little something, and say, hey, reparations. And everybody's going to go along and say, yeah, that's reparations right there. That look good to me. We got to start paying attention. This stuff don't work unless we pay attention. Movements don't work. Politics don't work unless you read the fine print and you pay attention. And we got to start paying attention. And you can have some kind of debt, loan relief or whatever, but you will not call that reparations. And y'all got to stop letting other people define a thing, saying that's reparations when it ain't. Who gives a care about what Tom Vilsack got to say and what he named a thing, or anybody else? Don't do that. Be very careful and watch out for the sellouts in your midst because they're everywhere. Apparently, you can buy sellouts cheap. They are a dime a dozen. You can buy them for pennies on the dollar nowadays. But anyway, fam, give me a few minutes to set up the phones. I will be back, and we will have the conversation. off the screen. Get this off the screen. All right, fam. We are back. Let me make sure this is off. Yeah. Okay. We are back, fam. We are back. And I'm going to my first caller. I am going to 917. 917, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jabbar from New York City.
How you doing?
I just wanted to do like a real, I just want to do a real quick math. You said that there was what, $5 billion going to socially disadvantaged farmers, right?
Uh-huh.
So if we said if a quarter of that is black, right?
Mm-hmm.
A quarter of a billion is what? 1.25, right?
I don't have my calculator, but go ahead, fam. Do your stuff. Talk your stuff.
Yeah, so understand if you divide that by like 45,000 farmers, that's 27,000.
Mm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't reparations like in the trillions, and isn't it going to be
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely
how?
is.
So how is that reparations? That's all.
It ain't. It ain't, and it ain't even a giveaway. It ain't even grants. Like if you go and read through the section I put up, it's not even like there is no giveaway. There is no redistribution of wealth. And understand, you're talking about a redistribution of wealth that changes the hierarchy in society. That's not what we have here. We don't have it. It doesn't change anything. You still have the vast majority going to everybody from Native Americans to white people to Hispanics or whatever. This is stupid. Anyway, fam, I would thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, fam. Yeah, it just don't make no sense. I'm going to my next caller. I am going to 612. 612, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Good evening, Yvette.
Hey.
My name is Ian. I'm calling from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Hey.
And I'm a first-time caller, but I've been following your work for the last few years. I just want to say thank you. Thank you to you and Tone for everything you're doing.
Appreciate it, fam.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to just, on topic of the conversation for tonight, looking at this and appreciating like the importance of land demands in terms of our reparations agenda as ADOS and that mission. One thing I want to ask you is, have you and Tone considered as a part of the transformative Black agenda, also fighting for policies that keep land that is currently owned by Black folks? Like, I mean, because we do still have farmers out here, right? And there's a law professor out in Texas, I think at Texas A&M, Thomas Mitchell, who's been doing work in this area. So that's just a question I had for you on this topic.
Well, yeah, I think you have to, right? I think you have to, fam. I think you have to consider that because we know how. First of all, we know how predatory capital is, right? And we talk about capital, we talk about people of color capital and white capital. It's not our capital. And so you know how predatory capital is. And we're headed towards the era of trillionaires, right? Well, they can just do whatever. And so you have to have something in place that not only redistributes to those of us who need or whatever, but you have to have something in place as well that protects the people who already have some farmland, right? And says like you have to really and truthfully you have to go through hell and high water to get it away from them. That's kind of what you have to do, or else we lose it because what was taken away from us, even if you give us some trillions back, we got people right now. Understand that we're really lowballing this thing in terms of America. We have Jeff Bezos is headed towards trillionaire status. We're asking for that as a group of people that have been plundered multi-generationally. We're basically asking for a pittance, really. And they don't even want to get that.
Right. I mean, and like you were saying earlier, I mean, you can't really calculate everything in terms of the damage that has been done to our ancestors and to ourselves. And so we really are asking for a favor when we're looking for reparations. But I just wanted to ask that and think about that, and maybe for other folks who are just listening to think about work that's being done, because there are Black people who still have land but are having a hard time keeping it. And what they're calling reparations with this thing you're discussing tonight, I don't know if that's going to help them. You know?
Exactly. So, well, if it does, it won't help them enough. Even if it helps them, it won't put them on the level that they need to be on, right? It won't put them on a level, because what you really want something is put you on a level to be able to compete with white farmers. not only to make up for of what was plundered, but you want to make up for the subsidies that they've been given through all this time too. So if it doesn't put you on the level to compete against these agribusiness companies, it's still not good enough, because that's where we should be. Not what nobody else should be. That's what we should be.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right. Thank you so much, Yvette.
no, thank you. I
Keep doing what
appreciate
you're
you.
doing.
I appreciate it, fam. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you. Going now to 412. 412, what's your name? Where you calling from? And what is on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, how you doing? Can you hear me?
I can hear you good, fam. What's going on?
All right. Yeah, this is Bruce from Pittsburgh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I was listening to the show, and it made me think about something I was watching this weekend on History Channel, and they were talking about the food wars,
Okay.
and they had the guy from McDonald's. Him and Burger King was at war, but he found that the French fries that were made at McDonald's, now everybody loves McDonald's French fries. You know, he found that the French fries that were made in Idaho were the best French fries for what he wanted. He said, give them the only contract to make those French fries. Now, can you imagine how much wealth was built just from a French fry with that one company?
Yep.
You know, that we missed out on.
Yep.
And also, it made me think about. I was in the military. I did some years in the Army.
Uh-huh.
The food that comes through the military. You know, the French fries, the lettuce, the cabbage, the tomatoes, all that food that is farmed and raised that we as black people, ADOS, didn't participate in those contracts because they stole the land that we would have had.
But not only that,
to
fam.
fulfill those contracts.
Not only that, fam. Let me just say this. Even with the black farmers that we had, right? Instead of putting them in a position to be the ones to so see, if you sell them to the military, it's kind of like what Byron Allen said about ads. Go Army and all that stuff could put ads on black media to keep us in business, even if we're hated by everybody else. So what happens is you could still do something to the extent where you have black farmers, the ones that are still here, have contracts to the military. Right, have contracts. Right. That's a way to ensure. See, that's something that should be added into what we're talking about in terms of reparations. Is government contracts, because government contracts mean you're not going to go out of business. Secured.
That ensures the growth and stability of those farms.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
They can be transferred generationally because they have those contracts. And I really hope our people understand what's going on here. They call it the trick bag. Now, didn't they say Obama was our reparations? Now, this is our reparations.
As far as they're concerned, air was our reparations. Wind was our reparations. A blade of grass.
I really hope our people don't get fooled in believing that this is reparations. And, you know, and it's sad that we don't have the representation in Congress to, you know, push this. They know this is a reparations, because I haven't heard anybody come out against that statement. You know, so it's insane. It's a terrible thing that's going on. But if people aren't staying aware, they'll say, yeah, it's reparations, and we'll move on.
And ain't y'all happy?
You know, we still be stuck.
Yeah, we still be stuck. Stuck like Chuck. Won't even know. Appreciate it, fam.
Can you check your email or your DMs from Pittsburgh ADOS, because I have some information in there for you.
Okay, appreciate it, fam. We'll do. Thank you, fam.
We need to do an update on our chapter.
Okay. All right, gotcha, fam.
All right.
Let me just say something else. This is kind of what gets on my nerves too when people talk about what government can't do. Like, people always say, well, government can't do this and government can't do that, and you expect government can absolutely select and give black farmers priority to provide food to the military, food to all the other places where government needs food. It's not just the military, but that's a great place. You can absolutely give us secure contracts. So that was always my problem when listening to people, even during the Obama era. Well, government can't do that, and the Republicans standing in the way. And da 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 da. No, when you're president, you control your executive branch, and that includes your cabinet and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you absolutely can do. We don't want to talk about that though, because we like pictures of Obama. You know. Anyway, let me go to my next caller. I'm going to 267. 267, what's your name? Where you calling from, and what's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette.
Hey.
This is Renee calling from Philadelphia. How are you?
Pretty good. I can't complain. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I decided to call because there's one point that you forgot about the farmers, that are white farmers that were getting subsidies from the government.
Uh huh.
Some of those, some of those farms were not, or some of those farms were not producing farms.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was
Mm.
an issue, and I remember it being like maybe around the Bush era.
Okay.
So, in the Bush era, I think it was the Bush era, maybe beginning of Obama era. They were talking about taking away subsidies away from the white farmers who weren't producing food, because they
Mm.
were paying white people, or I say white farmers, that were living on farmland that were qualified as farms, and they were receiving subsidies.
Living on farmland that's qualified as farms and receiving subsidies. Ain't that a con? You ever heard of a better con than that?
Yes.
They
Yes,
got all
because I
kind of
remember
cons.
I was watching that a while ago, and it was like years ago. Like I said, it's been a while, like probably like over 20 years ago, and I can't remember like whether it was 60 Minutes or some news news program did a program on that particular subject, and I'm like, these people are living on farmland that isn't producing anything, and then too, I am descendants of a farmer. My grandfather was a farmer. He used to thrash in Pennsylvania, around Gap, Pennsylvania, around the Pennsylvania Dutch, and we had land stolen.
Mm.
My grandfather had land stolen.
Mm.
So, so it's a real subject, and it's just it's just a travesty.
Okay. Yeah, it is a travesty.
That black farmers aren't getting what they're supposed to, and also, and I can't remember the guy's name with the hat. He had the guy that's actually like the spokesman for this so-called reparations for farmers. I think the man is not really as informed as he should be, because he was talking multicultural, saying, this is for people of color, this is for the black farmers, the Indians, and I think that he pretty much helped give away the farm, so to speak.
Yeah, you got to know enough. You got to know enough. And see, the thing is, they kind of come in there and they try to convince us of like, no, it's for everybody, and we with y'all, and we and it's not about whether or not you're with us. It's about what we're owed. It's not about whether or not you with us.
Yeah.
Like, that's wonderful, but it's about what ADOS are owed. I don't think people really understand that.
And I'm telling my family, I'm putting the alert out to my family: be careful what you advocate for. Because anything, we have to watch everything. We have to watch farms. We have to watch businesses. Like even this thing with the Asian hate thing.
Yeah.
That they're trying to, they're trying to weaponize Asians against us. It's like, it's what we predicted, before this election. With Trump, we had, one group against us. With Biden, we have everybody against us. And it's a shame. I just can't wait until these people come out of office, because I tell you right now, my son is going to college right now, and I told him that I want him to get into politics once he gets out, because we need more black lawyers, and we need to get him into politics, because we need to get these older boomers out, because they're taking a bag and they're running and they're leaving us with nothing.
Yeah, and you need black lawyers who actually care about the people, because what happens with a lot of black lawyers, or not, I don't say a lot, but too many, especially the high profile ones. I remember I saw an article talking about, all these black lawyers are out of work, and I think that's horrible. But I was thinking to myself, like, why aren't they advocating for the people if they're out of work anyway? Like, why aren't you filing cases, for these tenants who are getting evicted, for people who have dealt, if you're unemployed anyway, right? Like, why aren't you doing that? And that said a lot. That said a lot to me.
Oh, it does say a lot. I know we don't have much time, but I was also in the political world, for a while, and I got to go to a lot of Republican events, and there's a lot of, I say a lot of Hispanic lawyers. And a lot of lawyers from other groups, but you rarely see Black American lawyers that are, that are doing something productive. So hopefully, we'll get people that will be able to help litigate our rights and also stomp for our causes.
Absolutely, fam. I appreciate it. I agree with you. And shout out to him. Shout out to him. Appreciate him, regardless.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Yvette, and keep doing a good fight.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling in, fam. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah. I mean, I think you got to keep your people in mind. I think a group gets lost when it doesn't keep its people in the forefront, right? I don't care what you do with your life. Like, this has to be in the forefront of your mind. And we have this idea that, like, no, you get yours, I'm gonna get mine. No, that's not how life works. You got to stick together. Now, people might tell you we all people of color. They lying. They know when they go and advocate who they're advocating for, and it ain't you and it ain't me. We got to know the same thing. So anyway, I'm going now to 202. 202. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Greetings. This is Carlos from DMV.
What's going on, Carlos?
I'm very happy that you did do this particular program, because I was one of the people who thought that it was actually giving money to the farmers, and now I realize it was the old, bait and switch as always. But one thing I noticed when of the things that you showed was that it had that in 1910 we had 14% of the land.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that it was proportional to our population.
I don't know what our population was in 1910. I don't know what our population was in 1910.
It might have even been bigger than that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Proportion,
yeah.
Right? And that means like that the Great Migration was really the great removal from our land.
Yeah.
And then one other thing I saw of the things that you showed was that of those 10 companies, the top 10 that you said was receiving money from the government, 5 of them were in Georgia. And I was wondering if do you have any idea what that might mean?
I don't have any idea of what that might mean, but I think that shows you why during the Trump admin and stuff, why we had the AGs that we had, right? I don't know if you all remember who the agriculture secretary was during that time. But we previously had Purdue, who, we're talking about Georgia and governorship, right? The whole thing was set up to move money back to the big players who are here in Georgia. Like, that's how they playing this game, and so I don't know what that means in terms of why it's set up. That's an interesting question, though. That would be interesting to look into. Like, how did these big conglomerates set up here? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting question, but I don't know the answer to it. And I'd be curious to hear anybody else that kind of has a clue as to what that is and what that means.
Okay, well, thanks, and I appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for calling in.
All right.
We're going to our next caller. I am going to 301. 301, what's your name, where you calling from, and what is on your mind?
Hi, Yvette. I'm calling from the DMV also. Great show. I had to make 2 quick points.
Okay.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and I just found out from her that her grandmother last name is not what she thought it was, her maiden name, because they were in Georgia. They had a farm, a nice-sized farm, her great-grandfather, but they got chased off their land. They left Georgia, South Georgia, moved to North Florida, changed their name, lost their land, and had to start all over again. I found out the babysitter who used to look after both of us, her family came to Florida. My father used to teach her and her siblings. Her mother and father came to Florida in the 1960s because they lost their land in Georgia. South Georgia. And they came to Florida because her father had, a good-sized farm. White people thought he was so-called uppity. He got chased off his land. He packed up his children and his wife and literally drove off his land and came to Florida. Now, that's just an example, like you said, of how we've lost our land.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are multiple examples. That's just a few, right?
Right, that's just a few. And then, just to bring it all home, I grew up in the DMV. You know my family's from Florida. I grew up in Prince George's County.
Okay.
I grew up in the rural part of Prince George's County. I grew up with white kids whose families, like when you drive through the county, you see certain names on signs and all. These are the families of these children that I grew up with. And when you get invited places or whatever, they have, when I say land, they have land as far as you can see. My daughter went to school with some of these same children, and she would get invited to parties, whatever, and they, just to show you the mothers and fathers of the children that I went to school with, they passed this land down, and they have like compounds, like the grandfather, and then they pass it to the son and the other sister, and all these people have land. But then on top of that, there's these families in the county. There's a black family with the same name as the white family. They have land. Not as much, but they have land. And one last point, just to show you how this land thing goes. I grew up with these two families. They have the same last name, but they're not necessarily related. When they when somebody marries into their family, one relative will give the land, the other relative will supply the contractor so they can build the land, the house on the land.
Well,
if that isn't power.
Well, let me just say this, fam. That's kind of what, like, in terms of what marriages usually is bringing together different aspects of wealth. Like, America has this idea of just like love, marriage, whatever. But no, it's usually like we're going to bring together these two families that complement each other. These people have the stuff to put on the land or whatever, the seeds or what we're going to build. These people have the land. So we're going to bring these two families together. It's usually like the coming together of wealth. That's why families normally like come together the way they do. And I think, we don't even have enough. We don't even have anything to really talk about that. But that's a whole nother discussion, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, but I was just saying that to just let people know, if we hadn't lost our land, we could be, just imagine, we would have that same wealth, because land is wealth, land is power. And people, I'll wrap this up real quick. But people who don't know PG County like I do, I grew up here. PG County used to be a rural, white county. It was agricultural mostly. And it changed over the years, and now it's like these fake bougie black people now, mostly black. But they don't know that this county was land. It had like some of the most plantations in the state of Maryland. So there's all this land split up between several families, and I mean, they have land. And of course, we worked it, black folks worked it. Some of it probably was stolen, but land is definitely power. And these people are wealthy. They don't look like they're wealthy, but they're wealthy because, they don't dress. They just, they just
anonymous. Most of these wealthy people are, and they love their anonymity. They love to walk around and ride around in a beat up truck and look broke.
Right, and these are the people that I went to high school with back in the 70s and the 80s, and now they have children, and they're it's just going from one generation to the other. And like you said, they're all riding around these beat up trucks and kids driving, old cars, which is fine. But what I'm saying is they have the money, and these new wave black people coming into the county, they think they have money. And I tell them, no, you don't have money. Look at these street signs. These are the families in this county who have the money. You just have some income. They have the wealth.
Yeah, we don't understand the difference between income and wealth, though. We don't really understand the difference between income and wealth.
We don't. But thank you. I just wanted to just put that out there for people, who don't realize how PG County became PG County.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, fam. I always appreciate a good bit of history. And people need to realize that. Thank you so much, fam. I appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome. Good night.
Good night, fam. I am going now to, I'm going to 850. 850, what's your name? Where you calling from? What is on your mind? Hold on.
Hey, what's up, Yvette? This
Hey.
is JP again. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, JP. What's going on?
Good, good. I just kind of wanted to share a few things because this topic was kind of near and dear to my heart. I got a couple notes.
Okay.
First and foremost, I just want to say that, this is something that should be near and dear to all of our hearts, as ADOS people. But what I'm finding is that most of us, have no idea about our family histories and the role farming and farmland plays in our lives or played in our lives. And, we've become obviously so apathetic as it relates to the intellectual work and as well as to politics that some of us are just oblivious. So I appreciate you and Tone and everything y'all do. The other thing I wanted to say, so I was talking to my aunt the other day, and she was like, "Oh, did you see what Biden did for black farmers? He got us $5 billion." So it was just showing like how much that they just really don't understand about like the language in terms of how you were saying and the fine print. On the other side, sorry, really quick. So I do family ancestries for ADOS people.
Okay.
And so far I've done about 10 to 12, and it's just been a great journey to really discover. But as you go through these pages of census documents, and you see the whole page, every page, as we know, says farm laborer, it becomes real for you that this is something that affects us and that we should be paying attention to.
Absolutely.
And I had a personal story that I wanted to share.
Okay, go ahead.
In the process, really quick, in the process of doing my own family tree, I came across a story that, I talked to my family members, and they kind of, through some oral history, were able to connect some dots, but they weren't really telling me what I wanted to know. So I came across a story, which is actually the very first page of the very first chapter of the book, Red Summer 1919.
Oh, I read that book.
Yes, that is my family. The very first page,
Really?
and I had no idea. And so I wanted to read. It's really quick.
No, take
like
your
a
time.
paragraph,
This
but I
is
wanted
getting
to
good.
read from my story, from my family story. This is my third great grandfather, and it says his name was Joe Ruffin. It says Joe Ruffin remain. Oh wait, let me start from this. Joe Ruffin have lived his entire life amid fields of cotton and sugar cane east of Millen. This is in Georgia, the seat of Jenkins County. The land he tilled was once part of the plantation where his parents worked as slaves. Ruffin remained on good terms with the Daniel family, the former slave owner. Ruffin owned almost 113 acres. He ran 5 to 7 plows a season, and a substantial operation for anyone in that part of Georgia at the time, and a major accomplishment for a black farmer. Unlike many blacks in the area, he could read and write, though the census records did not report him having any formal education. So I don't want to give away the whole story. I want people to kind of go and read it, and I'm gonna send the story to you. But essentially, it ended in some lynching, it ended in some churches being burned, and it ended in my third great grandfather having to, mortgage off farmland to fight a court case in which he was targeted by police and chased by white mobs. So this means something to me because I see a trend in just the 10 people that I've done. 3 of them have lynching. So 30% of the 10 of those 10 people whose family trees I've done, 3 of us have lynching. 3 of us have farmland. So
Ain't that something to
we
find
just
in your
gotta
lineage,
really wake
right?
up. Mm-hmm.
Ain't that something to
And I would
find?
have never knew if nobody told me about this story and I didn't go look. My family would have never told me.
Yeah, fam, go try to find your stories and your histories. Like, that's so important. Like, because you can go back generations in this country. People go, you don't know your history. We go back a long way. Like, find out what happened, right? Find out, like, that informs you. It doesn't just inform you, like, in terms of, like, mentally. It informs you just in terms of how you move in the world and what you know you're owed. So Please go and find that and go and figure that out if you can, and make it a project for yourself, because that's important. Ain't no other way about it.
Absolutely. I sent you an email, and I'm going to email you the story personally, so check that out.
No problem, fam.
Thank you,
Absolutely. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you so much for calling in, fam. Listen, fam. Listen, I think we are at the end of the show tonight. We didn't get a lot of calls tonight. So I think that is the end of the show. Please, 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 because we didn't get many calls tonight. So y'all, I think I kind of think maybe people were caught off guard about the black farmer thing and really thought it was something that it wasn't. But anyway, please hit the like button. Please share. $ Breaking Brown if you want to donate, or patreon.com/Wacarnell. Patreon.com/Wacarnell, or make sure you hit that bell also. Also, to make sure you're getting donations, subscribe if you have not subscribed. But also go to Subscribe to Brown, subscribe to Brown, subscribe to Brown.com. Cost you no money just to add yourself to my mailing list. Subscribe to Brown.com. Oh, it's good that we ended. My stomach's starting to hurt me, bubble or something. Anyway, but please make sure you do that. I would appreciate that. Also, on the 25th, Making Hispanics, that will be the book club book. Even if you have not read it, please make sure that you pick it up and read it. It is an easy read, but it's also an infuriating read. I'm just going to tell you that much. And you can check my Twitter timeline if you're wondering about why I feel that way. But I'm going to talk about it. And that's going to be kind of a show. So even if you didn't read the book, maybe tune in on the 25th, because it's going to be good. Please do not forget also the 29th. That's my birthday. That's a Monday, I think. I won't be here. So please remember that on that Monday. But we will have the week prior. We will have the Monday show, the Wednesday show, and the book club show. So there will be 3 shows that week. And show up for the book, because the book club show is going to be pretty good, because I got some things I'm going to need to get off my chest. Okay, so please make sure you show up for that, because it's going to be some serious stuff going on. All right, this book is just shows you how everybody and their mama got a con set up for ADOS. And so we're going to have a conversation about all of that. So, fam, take it easy breezy. We're at around 11:46. Please finish your libation and get ready for bed. Wear your mask. Especially, I'm not going to get into vaccines or whatever. People go crazy when you talk about it either way, but just make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you take care of yourself. There are people around you who care about you and love you, even if they don't say so. So just make sure you take care of yourself and your own well-being. Don't be crazy, all right? And make sure you hit that like button before you leave. And like I said, don't be crazy. If you're not gonna do the whatever, make sure you wear your mask, okay? Wear your mask. Don't go talking in people's face all loud and stuff like that. Don't do nothing like that. That's disrespectful. To just walk up on people or just walk around, just take care of yourself. You got a life to live, and you want to just live it to us and be old and happy and in a rocking chair and laughing and giggling like old people. They just be so happy they don't live their life, and you got to live yours. They ain't got them troubles no more. So anyway, fam, keep it easy breezy. Until next time, take care of yourself. Don't bother nobody, and don't let nobody bother you.